says, it's better to surround President Trump with adults than leave him to his own devices. And he goes on to say, pessimists argue that even if he could not be changed, someone had to save us from his most dangerous errors. Those who went into the administration for all the reasons may want to start asking themselves how all this is working. And he goes to say, President commit errors, make bad decisions, and yet demand a loyal, stout defense and even a degree of dissembling from those who serve them. And he says, people like their jobs, like the power, and really resign merely on principle. Now, I'm quoting this message so that if he's watching any report about this, he must see that I passed his message. Now, when you are given a quotation like this, it is a source of wisdom to think about how to deal with complex situations. Because sometimes when you face complex situation, you always believe that you are alone into it. And when friends send you messages like this, they give you the wisdom to understand that things happen all over the world. They're there for you to draw lessons from. Now, Comrade Blade, I thought I should take this meeting a little bit back and say from the ANC, one of the things I want to acknowledge is that we're going through a very difficult and complex period. That is, we must put that up front. And consequently, as a movement, we go through a difficult and a complex period. Broad movement. Because sometimes people, when we use the term movement, they think that is an alternative word for the ANC. The movement is bigger than just the ANC. And therefore, when the movement goes through a difficult period, it has to deal with the siege that it finds itself from. You know, Blade, I grew up in a city called Kala. Yes, I grew up in that city. One of the things that I learned as I was growing was that when you are at your weakest, you are open to criticism even by a scoundrel, you know. Particularly if there is a great degree of respect for you, you are known to be brave, you are known to be having your own cattle and sheep. That's the village life. Once you collapse and you become weak, everybody cuts a pound of flesh on you and they kick you. We're in that situation today where everybody wants attention, just mere attention of the media, take a dig on the ANC. And our responsibility is to change that, because that happens because under pressure, we tend to move away from the theoretical framework of the revolution. The NDR, I still wish I can have sessions with all of you where you give us basic lessons on the National Democratic Revolution, because every day you read about it is so relevant. But once we are under siege, we tend to deal with and be affected by what I call effect of recency. Things that happen today, tomorrow, and the other day. And the theory of the revolution disappears. For example, the NDR has a strategic goal, that of resolving the three basic interrelated contradictions of a colonialism of a special type. We no longer say that. But if you go back to those issues, you'll find out that everything, every problem, every crisis goes back to those three basic interrelated contradictions of race, class, and gender. That's why if we go back there, it takes us out of the whole. But the further we go from that, the deeper we sink into the whole. For example, you referred to a radical economic transformation of the second phase. It can only be radical if it deals with these contradictions. If it doesn't deal with these contradictions, it's not radical. The threat to that theoretical framework, comrades, of a radical economic transformation is that if we use it to make ourselves look good, you know, when we make ourselves look good is when we have left-wing rhetoric, but action reflects something different. We are going to miss the whole, because what we are going to do we must be honest and commit to the radical economic transformation, which must deal with these three contradictions. But if we use it to save face, it's not going to work. Let me give you an example, Comrade Nzimande. Radical economic transformation, appropriation of land without compensation, and all those things. Sound right, ne? They sound right. But is the content correct? You know, if we do it as clashing the straws, as a sinking movement, we are going to destroy many things. But if we are honest about radical economic transformation as it should be, we may save ourselves and the country. But if we don't, we're going to clash the straws, sink ourselves. You know, I always talk about my friends in ZANU-PF. I always talk to them. They're my friends. Sometimes they throw me out of the country if I go with COSATU. But now when I go as the ANC, they welcome me. Now, I say to them, the land redistribution program in Zimbabwe is radical. You can't miss it. The only thing that was missing in that program was its effect on food production. Okay, totally destroyed. A net food exporter became a net food importer. Unless we got to those details, radical economic transformation will mean very little. I can tell you, with the slow pace that we're going with, Comrade Nzimande, I want you to do what I normally do as a farmer. I visit farms. Who played on a farm till they drive and don't born. I went to one farm here in Delmas, and can I tell you what I discovered there? That this government has been given a farm by the government. They're basically fronting. The cattle that are there belong to a white farmer. Everything there belongs to a white farmer, but they're there. When the Department of Rural Development comes, it sees progress. But there's no progress. So I'm putting that as the first point. The second one is, therefore, what happens, Comrade Blade, is the temptation to vulgarize the content of the NTR. It becomes very vulgar. I read the Strategy Tactics, various versions, and Strategy Tactics talk about monopoly capital. But today, our vocabulary talks about white monopoly capital. Okay, white monopoly capital. It's not, it looks small, eh? Looks small. It's not small. It's vulgarization of the vocabulary of the revolution for own ends. Now, if we don't deal with that, we're going to be in trouble soon. Eh? Sound correct? Well, It's white monopoly capital is the problem. And then we use that vulgarized terminology to deal with each other. Okay. If Putmoli happened to be a business person, you partner with a white company, I'm just throwing it. Every time you correct us, we shout you down. Put high, put Moli. We part a white monopoly capital Tula. Now, those are tendencies that are going to sink us very, very deep. The NC also creates space by committing what I describe as silly mistakes. And those silly mistakes open us up. We must deal with them, correct them. And my expectation from particularly the veterans and stalwarts, Randera, let's not waste time on the form. Let's pay attention on the content. If the NC says on the 2 days of the policy conference, it will open 2 days for looking into the health of the organization, we can fight until we're blue. Instead of going to that 2 days, do what we want to do. Correct the NC there. I'm leaving that with you. I know every time I meet Randera and Putwal, we fight about the term. I say, leave the term. Let's go in there. Let's say what we want to say right there. Maybe those 2 days may save the African National Congress. But if we don't go for those 2 days and the NC sinks better, we'll look back after some time and say, there was an opportunity for us to go there and save the African National Congress. We didn't go. Now, I'm saying that because veterans know that there was a big fight about the National Consultative Conference, rejected total. After struggling, we said, okay, 2 days for the health of the organization. Let's go there and exploit that. Help the ANC out of the hole. I don't think that is just a luxury. It's a duty on the veterans of the ANC to do so. That if they get an opportunity to save the ANC, whether it is 2 hours or 2 days, 2 days is a lot of time. You can do a lot of work on 2 days. And then when we deal with that, we must deal with the mistakes that we're committing that translate into a trust deficit between society and ourselves. The ANC, together with its allies, always boast of being the leader of society. You don't proclaim leadership of society. You earn it on an ongoing basis. You earn it on an ongoing basis. You work for it. You assert yourself to be a leader of that society. But if you commit mistakes, those mistakes open you up. You may slip on being the leader of society. And the reality that feel is to be in denial. There was a term that was used by Bishop Umlwana yesterday. I tried to understand it overnight. We cannot unsee what we have seen. Now, take England. What is this thing of we cannot unsee what we have seen? That is very, very complex, very, very complex. But I was trying very hard to understand it. What is it that we cannot see? We cannot unsee what we have seen, Now, now, I'm raising that point because that trust deficit requires to correct the situation. I put only 4 things that I think we should do that, to correct that. 1, we need to own up and accept that mistakes have been committed. That's the first thing. Boldly, upfront, own that, say so. 2, we must explain that number of issues could have been handled differently and better. We own that. Thirdly, we must publicly commit to ourselves to working in correcting them. In that way, invite all the ideas that can help us correct that situation. Lastly, we must follow what we say with concrete action. Now, we must be seen to be dealing with corruption. You raised that, Comrade Blade, eh? Without being emotional and excited about it. It's a reality, it confronts us, let's deal with it. I like the Chinese phrase on this matter of dealing with both tigers and flies. Because if we're only dealing with flies, society will not see the action. So we must deal with both the flies and the tigers. Tigers can see it, but them smart, eh? Nasbotshwe ubangaba kunto esenzileyo. If I come to botshwayo siyathetha nje, it is not going to mean anything. Okay, it means nothing. Now ungqongqoshe wenze into apha uyibile imali ye-state siyayisebenza hayi ungqongqoshe uyibile laa mali ye-state we whisper. It will not change the reality. The reality will be abotshwe. Yabona ke ndake ndakwindawo kuthiwa Brixton eLondon. It was the headquarters of crime. For some time, they were changing the situation. I took time, I went there. So that's the thing I do, that is practical learning. And I asked this chap, how did you change this situation? He said, there is no other formula of changing the situation on crime and corruption other than arrest, prosecute, and convict. Now, if you arrest, release on bail, and be on bail forever, you're not going to defeat corruption. You must arrest, prosecute, and convict. You know, the beauty of that community, it also destroyed a mischief among ourselves. Where Usoli, he talks too much about this thing. Eh? So then we go public and say, Usoli ubey imali. It sticks. Yabona masabantu bakuthi singabe Sotho yabona. Ka Sotho lentsu yasimnwana alkhudle. Yabona. It means if I say so, the word is continuing to harm the character of soul, even if it's not true. The word continues to harm. And therefore, in the process of dirty tricks, it talks too much, masimtyhole naye. Utsho bonke abantu ka befika bathe usoli hey uyithathile imali. Hello guys, that the chap is as poor as a church mouse. Ayinayo nesent. Now, but the word continues to damage his reputation. And so, Blade, to make out must start action against corruption. I say this here, I say that in the ANC all the time, Philly. I say we can't theorize corruption. Corruption can only be dealt with by arrest, prosecution, and conviction. Now, let me come to one of the most sensitive areas. Ipati nekosa to meet and caucus. I've been a member of both, okay, for a long time. Oh, boy. Now, when they come up with the same message, I know, but we give a meter somewhere. But they both come out and say the president must step down. And because I permit, the president must step down. Then I permit, the president must step down. Do you get my point? All of them. When that happens, I look at the trend as why the meeting is somewhere. Are you a coincidence? Now, and then I go to a COSATU march where I was not put solely. I went to a COSATU march, I was not put, okay? And I did not montage. Now, I go to this march now, and I said to them, please talk to the ANC. Don't talk at the ANC. Big. What is the difference between talking to the ANC and talking at the ANC? I say, these allies have the space and the right to come to the ANC and make their demands on issues. But if the ANC will read from newspapers, on TV, that they have this idea, that is talking at the ANC. I'm reinstating it that today, I come replay that. We have a political council 4 and 5 June, face to face, we'll talk to each other. Comrades must talk to the ANC face to face.
But we must talk at the ANC before we are able to talk to the ANC.
So we are protected.
Now, Usole allows that I'm attacked by blade, and then much later he says, you are protected. Okay, fine. Now, and that issue, comrade, is quite complex. It's not as simple as we make it to be. Others think that the easiest way to do that is to support a vote of no confidence of the DA. I disagree with that. Because I disagree with that. Let me tell you why I disagree with that. The day we support emotion against whomsoever, it doesn't matter how irritated, how bad that person is of the ANC, and we support the opposition, that is the highest level of betrayal from where I'm standing. Let me explain why is that the case. Conscience. Went to the caucus last week. Somebody made a distinction between two things, Blade. A conscience and a consciousness. It's not the same. A consciousness is about knowing which side you stand, irrespective of the company you are in. So you can't swap around comrade wako because it doesn't work that way. Come back here, have a discussion, take a decision. And I said to the comrades must continue raising the issues in the interaction political and ultimately take that decision. And I even went further. Comrade Blade Uguti, how irrational that thing is, your conscience. 80 massive vote and 80A, it's totally upset actually. Is that we have an opportunity to elect new leadership in December, 6 months to go. It's too long, under the circumstances. Downgrading, this, many things are happening. Therefore, it is too long. It is not as long as tearing the movement apart and hope to pull together pieces of it. It will take you longer than 6 months. It will take you longer than 6 months to pull those pieces together. Don't tear it apart. And I'm putting it here so that in the Imbizo Comrade Blade, Amakom must feel free to talk it, discuss it. I'm raising that issue. The ANC and this movement must be able to take decisions. If it fails, it can ride on the back of the DA. But Gabanye, you can ride on the back of a crocodile to cross a river. It's fine, maybe. Right on the back of a crocodile, and you jump that side. If it leaves you, after jumping, it doesn't devour you. That's the risk you take. Now, and therefore I'm putting this issue here so that it must not come here accidentally. I'm putting it. Processes will go to the December conference. December conference, you pray for the outcome. Pray for the outcome. You don't invest on a leadership that can change the view about the ANC. A leadership that will not send a message that a luta continua, looting is continuing. This is the relative confronting us. Now, if you don't invest in that, you shout at it, you pray for it, I can only wish you good luck. Now, and in the process, Comrade Blade, and I wish I'm a comrade discuss it here. Blade, I'm a respondent, you say. Now, when, as a respondent, I have freedom to talk about things. You see, I think I'm a comrade must interrogate a concept. There's a concept that is thrown at us all the time. Put the country first, not the ANC. Yes, sir. Very problematic concept, as if we are governing in abstract. We're governing as the ANC. The strength of the ANC, correcting weakness of the ANC, making the ANC strong, in itself is necessary for us to govern properly. But the concept 80, you can destroy the ANC, but the country is first, is a concept that says, give up power and leave the country intact. That is the concept, and I think it's a terrible concept. The concept is, let's strengthen the ANC. The ANC must be ethical, it must be ideological, it must be political, it must do the right things, it must be a strong movement for it to govern proper in the country. This thing of, you can destroy it in Abiko, then the country is first, it's a concept that I think Imbizo Maito Comrade Zaman. It just clarify what kind of a concept is this? And I've spoken to a number of comrades, MK Council and everybody, and I say to them, comrades, I don't believe, now as Gwede, on fragmenting the ANC and say you are strengthening it. I don't believe in that. You don't fragment it and strengthen it. It doesn't matter. It's a theory that is based on building a wall, not a movement. When you build a wall, there's a crack, you break it down and rebuild it. Is that not so? But a movement of people doesn't work that way. Because if you lose contact it takes a long time to reconnect. So my submission complete is that we must work hard to resolve the problem facing our movement. The leadership that we elect must in itself send a clear signal. So, I know we hope on that combination of a team. Now, Donald Trump, we don't move away from that leadership, we move close to that leadership so that we can continue to give advices on how best can we do things. I'm sitting in Tulas for 10 years, this is my 10th year. Okay, I will not be Secretary General in January, okay? I can assure you of that. If I try that luck, I will as well buy a coffin. And that stress, as in Kapazeli stress, Babu Zabanya, don't you have a stress? I say no. It's the feature of my life. I'm living stress, so it makes no difference. I'm just moving on. That's it. Now, you can take it for 10 years, you can't take it for 15 years. Sak bulali stress. I'll save it because it's in your blood. Now, I would wish to see a situation that anybody who becomes Secretary General there must not run short of stalwarts and veterans just going there and sit and visit and talk. There are no problems. There are no problems. They just come and visit and talk. One person who does that, I want to give you this feedback, is a man called Andrew Mlangen. You know Andrew Mlangen? He walks there anytime and every time and tell you this, and then leave. The more of that we get, the better the movement would be. And I'm saying into the future, the more we get that, the better the movement will be. Now, I'm sitting down now, please. I've responded to everything you said as I responded, and I'm throwing these issues. I'm not giving you a prescription. I'm throwing them for discussion so that when you come out with a program, minimum program. Yeah. They ask them the minimum program, what I be NTR. Ikamala minimum program. Ikamala go to NTR. Ikamala minimum program. As we develop the program of action, let's anchor it on the National Democratic Revolution. Thank you very much.
All right, at the SACP's National Imbizo there, where discussions are being held on the state of the ANC and the country, a number of delegates representing not only the SACP but also COSATU and the ANC. We were listening there to the ANC's General Secretary Gwede Mantashe, who spoke on the slow pace of radical economic transformation. He spoke on white monopoly capital, but also on what he called silly mistakes made by the ANC that allow for criticism, saying that the ANC is going through a difficult time and it's time to admit that mistakes have been made and to publicly commit to fixing those mistakes. He says that the leadership of the ANC must be seen to be dealing with corruption. He also spoke on the motion of no confidence, saying that he disagrees with the point that ANC MPs must support the DA and the opposition's motion for the president to step down, saying that the moment that any ANC MP supports such a motion by the opposition, this is the greatest betrayal. He also spoke a bit on the upcoming December conference where new ANC leadership will be elected, saying that these leaders must be seen to give hope. So that, in brief, some of what came out of what we heard from Gwede Mantashe there. We'll keep you informed as to what else is coming out of.
I don't see him.
Okay, just give me 2 minutes just to check what's happening with Wabumpumlwana so that he has time problems. He has to catch a plane after leaving here. And I hope he's not changing tech on the basis of now missing the plane. All right. Whilst they're checking Wabumpumlwana, I will now open the Imbizo to take discussions on the two inputs. Then we'll later on have a panel discussion. And also, if Wabumpumlwana manages to arrive, it can then make his presentation. Mpo, I need someone to help me to get to roll this mic. Quickly, you just indicate your name and you hit straight, not too much comments. At best, if we agree, to try and minimize 3 minutes each. Here's the first speaker, Professor Rassen. You are all welcome to engage with the two inputs from the plenary point. Okay.
Thank you, comrade and program director. Indeed, comrades, I think we do all realize that there is a crisis in the ANC and in the country. And comrades, it's very clear that when the house is burning, if you stay inside that house, you're going to choke, and the smoke is going to overwhelm you. And comrade Gwede, when you do the montage style, we don't blame you because we can understand that you are drowning in the smoke. Comrades, as the advanced cadre of our revolution, we've always known that there will come a time when there will be a crisis of this nature in the NDR. The NDR itself has inbuilt contradictions, and those contradictions are beginning to play themselves out. So comrades, we must forgive ourselves for all the problems that are happening to the National Democratic Revolution. Some of us spent 34 years in the ANC, in the underground structures of the African National Congress, in the MK Special Operations, and we realized that there is a time when a man has to make a decision to walk out of the house and try and deal with the flames from outside and get some fresh air. Comrades, in 1985, I was returning from Moscow, and I landed in Lusaka, and I spent 2 weeks with Chris Hani, discussing the effects of perestroika and glasnost on this organization. I said to Chris Hani, let us change the name of the Communist Party to try and be in line with the views of perestroika and glasnost. And he told me very clearly, that is not going to happen. And after lengthy discussions, I agreed with him that this organization must remain the vanguard of our struggle, the vanguard of our revolution. We came back in 92, I was teaching at Western University, and he asked me to write our discussion on paper. And I wrote a paper to Chris, and I've asked Comrade Soli to try and find that paper. In that paper, I suggested that there will come a time in the history of this organization, of the NDR, of the ANC, when such mistakes will happen. and we'll have to have a plan B to deal with them. I agree that we're not going to change the name of the Communist Party, but let us create another home away from home, so that when the ANC starts to make mistakes, it doesn't lose its members to the opposition, but it loses its members to a home away from home. Shosholoza is their home away from home. We have met with the ANC at Luchile House Congress. We were not there. Kagatuane was there. We represented our credentials to ANC. We're still looking for a meeting with the top six. We still want a meeting with the leadership of the Communist Party. That is who we are. And we are saying this country needs a new beginning. 2019, comrades, is not going to be an election, an ordinary election. It's going to be a funeral of the old ideas. And this country needs new ideas. And we are going to rise as the new giant in 2019. And comrades, don't write us off. You saw what happened in France. The political party formed last year won the elections. We were formed in 2015 and will win the elections in 2019. Because this country needs a new beginning. And we are the new beginning. Shosholoza for sure. We are not against the ANC. We are not against the party. We are a new beginning, comrades. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ray. Three minutes, 30 seconds. Other names? Umpo? Is that the dog? Prof? Yes, yeah, thank you very much.
Comrade Gwede, the name is Farid. I'll be very brief. Comrade Gwede, I've heard you now twice articulating the problem that many members of the ANC faces in the upcoming days. And comrade, you have phrased the challenge in terms of two opposites. The one is a question of organizational discipline on the one hand versus emotion on the other. Now, comrade, I'm just wondering, to sharpen the argument, I'm not wondering if this is not a straw man argument that you are presenting. And I'm saying this with due respect to you as Secretary General of our movement. Can the problem not be framed or a deep morality, which is not a big distinction, I mean, that features in our language, is understandable. But how clear are you when you present the dilemma in terms of organizational discipline and being emotional on the other? I'm asking if there isn't an element of unfairness to reduce all this anxiety and concern for the ANC, concern for what is happening to the National Democratic Revolution. You're reducing all of this to just emotionalism. So I would like to see a sharper argument than a simple dichotomizing between organizational discipline on the one hand and emotionalism on the other. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Doc. The comrade at the back there with the ANC, is that Comrade Hope? Oh, yes, yeah, that's Comrade Hope.
I think the issue I wanted to raise is the whole question of how do members of the African National Congress and the Alliance, all formations, allied to the African National Congress. There is a debate which says the problem is the African National Congress. And I think we must be aware, alert to that debate. Because in the milieu, decisions around problems and myself in the ANC, but I think generally in various organizations there are leadership deficiencies in various of our formations. They can be acute in various organizations, specifically because the ANC being the leader of the alliance, there's a lot of expectation on the African National Congress to provide leadership to itself, to the alliance, and to the overall society. So it becomes very important that this debate, let's assume that the ANC takes a decision that the president must resign as the president of the republic in agreement with COSATU, the Communist Party. We will still be faced with an issue itself, because that decision, if it has to be made, it can't be made by the opposition parties. It has to be made by the African National Congress. It can't be made by opposition parties. So that if it was to be made and it happens, we have to deal with the notion that the African National Congress is a problem. Forces which say that have got their own agenda in terms of the direction they want to take the South African nation. And I think the Imbizo must also address that issue. What do we do if the decision was to be taken, the president resigns as the president of the republic, remains the president of the ANC and steps down at the end of the year? We have to also deal with this other agenda. And it was articulated this week that no, actually President Zuma is not the problem. The problem is the African National Congress and whoever allied is allied to them. That's why it becomes very important, the issue of organizational strengthening of all our formations, so that the commitment becomes the commitment to the national democratic revolution and what it tries to deal with.